Veteran on the Move, episode number 3. Welcome to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you're a transitioning veteran, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone who's still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. So welcome aboard, sit back, and enjoy the ride. Frank Gustafson is the founder of OneBoldMove.com and Lead Like a Marine podcast. Frank is a Marine veteran, coach, trainer, speaker, and entrepreneur. Frank's vision is to be a resource and encouragement to current and future entrepreneurs. All right. Well, Frank, thanks for joining us today. And understand when you're done with this interview, you're going to head out west to help bring your son back home who's getting out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, Joe. Hey, I appreciate you having me on your show. It's an honor. And I appreciate meeting you, brother, and thank you so much for your service. But yeah, I am. I'm headed to the great state of California this morning, and my son is getting out of the Marine Corps after 4 years. He's stationed at Miramar, and hopefully in the next 2 days he will have everything loaded into his truck and be ready to hit the road Wednesday night when I'm available. And we're going to make the trek back. So, yeah, he is transitioning.
Awesome. Well, I've been to Miramar a few times myself and spent 5 years just up the road from Miramar there at Camp Pendleton, and love Southern California. Always try to get back there whenever I can. And so your son is now a veteran in transition, if you will. There's a lot of veterans in transition these days with the drawdown and everything. For those veterans looking to choose entrepreneurship as a course of action, what comes to mind when you're thinking about some of the things that are ahead of them?
Yeah, Chris is in transition right now, and it's kind of like the shoe cobbler's kids don't have any shoes. He's not he's not listening to the old man very very well. And his transition is going to be a little rocky, but I think he's going to land on his feet. He always does. He's a smart kid. I think that some of the in the Lead Like a Marine podcast, the interviews that I've done with folks who are transitioning and have transitioned successfully, I think one of the huge keys is networking. It's getting out there and meeting people, and it's find something that you want to do. And then meet people that are in that industry and talk to them and find out, ask questions, and really learn as much as you can and get a leg up, because a referral is huge these days.
Absolutely. I've experienced some of that in my own transition as far as networking, being a little older since I ended up retiring from the military as opposed to getting out after first enlistment. I did understand the value of networking and had many experiences. And networking without networking, I definitely would not be where I'm at today. And it took several years. I was probably well into my mid or late 20s before I finally started to understand the value of networking and knowing people and making connections. Because as a former boss of mine said, he always go out of the way to meet somebody and to know somebody because he wanted to know them before he actually needed something from them. And that always resonated with me.
Sage wisdom there.
Yes, exactly. So as far as I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's tough when you go into the Marine Corps at 18 and you get out at 22. That is a tough time to get out of the service because you're still young. You've had a lot of responsibility. You've learned a ton over your last 4 years, and you've done things that a lot of your the folks that you graduated from high school with haven't done. I mean, you've done infinitely more than what they've done, but you come out, you've kind of been institutionalized for 4 years, and you don't maybe necessarily understand the outside world so well. And it is at 22, it's a tough time to come out. Even 4 more years, if you spend 8 years in at 26, it's a tough time because you're still so young and you still have so much to learn. And I think that if you can it's almost like if you could just get in somebody's brain, Joe, and just say, let me control you for a little while here, and you're going to be successful. I think that networking piece is a scary piece for these guys I don't know why. And well, I guess I do know why, because I was their age one time and I was scared as well. But if you can just trust a little sage wisdom here coming from a guy who's pushing 50 this year and has been there and done that, get out there and network and meet people and get out of your little group of guys that you hang with all the time and just get out there and see the campus, man, see the world, because that's where it's at.
Absolutely. And I suppose it's sort of like raising children. If you could just get your kids to listen to what you're telling them to do, things would be so much better. But sometimes we just have to figure things out for ourselves and on our own. And of course, those with the entrepreneurial instinct and are probably going to end up going down that road anyways, and have to make some of those mistakes themselves. Along the lines of entrepreneurship, a lot of veterans, as they're transitioning out, like myself, kind of, they're thinking, okay, I guess the right thing for me to do is go into corporate America and get that job and get my cube in the cube farm and start working towards the corner office. But a lot of these veterans, like you said, they've done so much in a 4-year or 8 years of service. It's really almost like time compression. They've compressed so much living in leadership and life experiences into a short amount of time. That's really what the value of the transitioning veteran possesses, if you ask me, because a lot of kids that chose a different route, whether they spent 4 years in college or they're out there working in the civilian world, I think time slows down on the civilian side compared to what military guys experience. And a lot of military guys sell themselves short. If you ask me, they don't realize the value of what they have, but they have to take it and package it and present it in a way that the civilian world understands. And that's really part of the transition. And like I said, part of networking is getting to know people that can help you present who you are to the civilian world. And as far as entrepreneurship goes, a lot of these veterans are starting from scratch. They know they want to go run their own show. They know they want to run their own business. They've got leadership skills. They've got life experience skills. But where do you start when you're looking to go be an entrepreneur is the big question.
Yeah, well, I think that all entrepreneurs pretty much start from scratch. So, I want to encourage veterans that are considering entrepreneurship that piece is not special. Your skills and abilities are special, but starting from scratch and being afraid and not having a flipping clue is completely 100% natural. That's where all entrepreneurs start, honestly. Yeah. And absolutely. You talked about coming out and deciding whether you want to go get the job, and I tell you, I've been there, done that, and it's one of those things where you don't. There's two ways to learn something, right? And that is from other people's experience and then from your own experience. And I know they say that experience is the best teacher, but if you can gain wisdom, then isn't that better than, I think gaining wisdom is better than experience. And the way that you gain wisdom is you learn from other people's mistakes. And if you can get out there and talk to folks who have been there, done that, if you decide, I want to go into real estate, talk to a real estate agent who's been doing real estate for 20, 25 years and see what that, check out that person's lifestyle, check out that person's attitude, check out, what it is that they do on a daily basis. And you might decide that you don't want to spend 20 years filling your bank account and emptying your soul, because that is typically what happens in the job world. As an entrepreneur, it's a difficult road. It's a lonely road. It's a tough battle, but man, having control of your own life is infinitely better, in my opinion, than sitting in a cube somewhere.
And sometimes that veteran that wants to get out there and jump into the world of entrepreneurship may not have an idea yet, may not know what to do. There's other options, especially when you're already in the middle of a transition. Why not set up your transition so you come out on the other side where you want to end up at, and that's as an entrepreneur. And that can be tapping into all these resources and programs and people that are out there, especially even within the TAMP, TAP, and ACAP classes that the different services offer. There's a lot of entrepreneurship classes and programs integrated into all that stuff that can help you get started in your transition to entrepreneurship. And fact is, you may have to take a job or maybe just a simple job. Heck, get out there and start mowing yards or something, just so you can have some income while you're making this transition to entrepreneurship, as opposed to jumping into the high demand, high intensity type corporate job, and then it doesn't leave you any emotional or mental freedom to work on your entrepreneurial pursuits.
Right. Well, that's where I started. 18 years old, started mowing lawns, had a landscape company, and that's where my entrepreneurial journey started. There was an article that was just written here recently by a guy named Sultan Camp. It's a fantastic article. You can Google Sultan Camp and see all of his stuff out there. He wrote this article, and he talks about, guys coming out of the military, coming out of the Marine Corps. Maybe you've been in for 8 years or 10 years or 20 years, whatever. And if you think about it this way, if you kind of feel like that, there might be some delusions of grandeur there. Okay. You might think, well, I'm a master gunnery sergeant in the United States Marine Corps, or I'm a colonel in the United States Marine Corps, and I came out here and I'm going to grace you with my presence, and I'm going to allow you to hire me to run your company. It just flat out doesn't work like that. If you take a look at it from the other side, let's say a pilot came up through the ranks working for Delta or American or any of the airlines out there and had been doing it for 20, 25 years, and then goes, you know what? I think I'm going to go and join the Marine Corps as an aviator. And guess what? I want you to hire me in as a major, and I want you to give me a command right off the bat. That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely not.
The same thing is true. You're going to come out of the Marine Corps with some skills and experiences, but don't expect necessarily to be hired into a position of leadership right away. You're going to have to do your diligence. You're going to have to come in wherever you can get in sometimes and build your way up. And the fact is that the skills and abilities and the talents that you have as a veteran it's going to, when you come out, it's going to blow your mind when you start sitting across the table from these civilians and they start asking you questions, and you're like, this guy, where is this person coming from? And because it's a whole new world out there. But you're going to have some skills and talents and abilities that are going to shine in the job world. If you decide to go take a job, and you need to go do that initially while you're working through your entrepreneurial journey, go out there and get a job. You're going to rise through the ranks quicker than you can imagine. It's unbelievable.
That's so true. And I think what you're getting at is, be willing to accept the entry level job or that job that may not be your dream job as a starting place, and have the confidence in yourself to know that you're going to rise and pass everybody up much quicker just because of the experience and life skills that you've developed while you're in the military.
Right. Well, the 14 core leadership traits and the 11 leadership principles, there's very few civilians out there that really understand that concept. And when you come into an organization and you have that as part of your DNA and you live that and breathe that on a daily basis, you're going to shine. You're absolutely going to shine. And
I think as far as the civilian side of things goes, most of the civilian world has a lot of respect for what military folks do and the skills and experiences that they have coming out of the military, but they may not understand it. But then when they get in and they start working with ex-military folks, they may not have been exposed to it, or they may not have had a lot of leadership emphasis in whatever occupation they may be in. But when they see a great military leader with great skills, they flock to it and they have a great appreciation for it. And that's where a lot of the respect for ex-military guys comes from, because they get into the civilian world and they lead by example and they set a good example. And even in the civilian world, leadership is recognized and leadership is leadership.
Well, boil it down to its lowest common denominator. A guy that shows up for work as scheduled squared away with all of his, ducks in a row or his crap in one bag, that's rare out there in the civilian world. And as a former service member, you're going to do that on day one. And from day one, you're going to impress.
And it is hard to believe that just showing up on time and always showing up is over 80% of the battle. But that's true.
Oh, man. Yes.
You're actually working on a book right now, aren't you?
Yeah. I've had a lot of experience in my day doing a lot of different things. I was 20 something years in the telecom business and then owned my own business and was very entrepreneurial all the way through my experience. And I sat back and I kind of took some inventory on what are some of the things that helped me and that propelled me in my journey up until now. And I kind of lighted on something that really has been a difference maker for me, and that's the 14 core leadership traits. So I've written an ebook, and it's available out on my website, oneboldmove.com. It's for free. I'm actually looking to take that and convert that into a real book. Hopefully, it'll be on the shelves of the bookstore if everything works out here, hopefully within the next year or so. But I really believe that there's some wisdom in those 14 traits that will correlate to business and to entrepreneurship that folks just need to know. So I'm working on that project as we speak.
All right. Well, I'll definitely be signing up for your 14 core leadership traits giveaway there on your website. So you'll see my email address coming in there in a little while. And I also look forward to reading the book when you get that done. And I'd like to ask you, you say you sold a business, was it a year ago, back in 2013?
Yes.
You sold your business?
Yeah. I started the business on April Fool's Day in 2009 and sold it on tax day in 2013.
All right. How poetic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going to guess that you made some money when you sold the business, right?
I did okay. It was kind of a break-even deal. In fact, when I had a guy that was after me, it was the business was electronics recycling up in Minnesota. Since I sold it, I moved back to Texas, and that was all part of the master plan. But the business, I started the business at probably the worst time in the history of the country, barring the Great Depression. Well, that might have been a good time, but I started the business at a really tough time. The business economy was really in the doldrums, and I ran the business for 4 years, and we did real well. We made a great name for ourselves, and provided steady paychecks for 8 individuals, which I'm proud of. Never missed a payroll, never bounced a check. So, the business was successful in that sense. When I had an offer from someone to buy the company, my father had just come down with, it was from cancer. I don't know, cancer is never minor, but it was fairly minor. But it was one of those things where we kind of felt like we'd been up in Minnesota for 24 years, and we kind of felt like, we were being pulled back to Texas and, be back closer to my family and that kind of thing. So I went to my accountant and I said, Tom, I'm looking to sell the business. And he said, no, don't do it. Don't do it yet. He said, you're right on the precipice. This business is going to be worth millions in a couple of years. And I said, right now, Tom, it's not about the money. I said, you've been working with me for 25 years. When have I ever made a decision that was strictly based on money? And I haven't, and I don't. So it was time to sell the business. So I pretty much broke even, but I came out of that business with enough cash to come down to Texas, pay cash for a house, and have zero debt, which is nice.
Right. And so you didn't rush back out and get another job.
No, I right at about that time, I got introduced to podcasting and through John Lee Dumas's podcast and several others. And I joined John's mastermind. And I think that's a key too, is get around other like-minded people as quick as you can, people that are headed in the direction you want to go, and get with them and figure out where they're headed. And if that's a direction you want to take, then, join in. So I didn't want to jump out and get a job. So people would ask me, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to do something. And then when I kind of started doing something, they said, well, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know, but I'm enjoying it. And, you know, it was, so I kind of just really started studying and trying to understand, and started writing in my blog, and eventually fired up my podcast. And I'm looking at doing another podcast here pretty quick, more business related than military transition related. So yeah, it's I definitely could not see myself working for somebody trading hours for dollars anymore. Never again. I could never do that.
That's great. Hey, the other thing I wanted to mention was, I was reading on your website, you're the only other person I've run across, and I know there's others out there, I just haven't met any of them, that have a subscription to Success Magazine. I actually had a subscription. I believe it was called Advantage Magazine years ago, before the relaunch of Success Magazine. You know, Success Magazine was big back in the 60s and 70s, and it shut down, and they relaunched it a few years ago. And because I had a subscription to that Advantage Magazine, I was notified that Success Magazine was starting back up again. So I've had a subscription to Success Magazine since it relaunched. I don't know, maybe how long ago was it? 7 or 8 years ago, it relaunched.
There's a lot
it's
of
been
wisdom.
going strong ever since. Yeah,
A lot of wisdom.
I love that magazine. It's just it struck a chord with me that you had mentioned Success Magazine. So it's actually the only magazine I have that I have a subscription to. Believe it or not. All right. Well, Frank, thanks for talking with us today and sharing your experiences, and good luck on bringing your son back to Texas, and tell your son thanks for his service, and good luck to him in his transition.
Joe, I'll do that. And, just want to say that if anybody out there that is transitioning is interested in entrepreneurship or business in any, from any perspective, I am an executive coach, and I coach for money, but my goal is to do probably at least 15% of my coaching this year free, pro bono, for veterans. So if there's anything I can do,
that's
for anybody,
outstanding.
Yeah, it's oneboldmove.com. There's a place out there where you can click and set up a 30-minute phone call, and we can just kind of talk through it, maybe etch out an introductory plan. And if there seems like a fit, then I'll be happy to coach you here, and help you get started.
All right, Frank, that's great. Thanks for sharing, and look forward to talking to you here soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, out here. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.